G'day, battlers, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Play Pokemon Local Tournament run at the hands of EvoSt3vo. Not something that we've covered before, but something that we may be covering a little bit more going into the future. But EvoSt3vo, one of the kindest people out there, he's been a long time supporter of the channel, so really looking forward to taking a look at these battles. So for those that sort of aren't aware, what is a Play Pokemon Local Tournament? Essentially, it is an opportunity to get some championship points to qualify for the Pokemon World Championships on sort of a smaller scale, sort of local game stores. Less points than like a regional or international championship, but still something to chip away. Currently not available in the Oceanic region. You can do it though in North America, Latin America, and also through Europe. But yeah, hopefully the Oceanic thing comes soon. Like we're halfway through January, we're sort of 5 months in, but maybe in the next month or two we'll just have to wait and see. But regardless, EvoSt3vo coming into this tournament to claim some championship points. So we will, if you want to skip straight to the battles, there are going to be timestamps in the progress bar down below, so you can just skip straight into the action of round one. But before that, we are going to talk a little bit about the tournament, about the teams over yonder, and all of that as well. So, but feel free to skip if you want to. But EvoSt3vo did give a little bit of a brief background about the tournament, because again, like a lot of people out there haven't had the chance to experience a local tournament yet. So this is just sort of his, I guess, first-hand account to talk through some of what that was like. So let me find. Okay, here it is. So tournament started at 2 p.m. in Albuquerque, New Mexico, home of Breaking Bad. That's not written there. I'll stop ad-libbing. On December 31st, 2023, there were roughly 10 to 11 trainers, many local and around the state, himself included. One even came from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Admittedly, I don't really know how far that is. I said I was going to stop ad-libbing. So let's continue. The venue itself was located in Old Town, near the heart of the city, in a local card shop, tucked away in a local corner of the area. Although it looked small, the rooms were sectioned off in a maze-like pattern, making it feel larger. The tables had play mats from another game, mostly for the card and D&D play, but overall, environment was welcoming. Trainers registered their teams on 2 pieces of paper, one for opponents, one for the other officials, detailing opponents, like the Pokemon with the moves, CP, and swap team sheets before the battle began, just like in regional tournaments and the like. But essentially very, very similar to a regional structure, except you're sort of registering your team on the day, so there's no sort of online registration. And in the same vein, there isn't an online resource of the team. So for example, like Dracoviz isn't able to just have a database that has all of these teams in it, unfortunately. But yeah, essentially that is, so thanks to Evo for that. But now we can sort of take a look at the round one teams here. So EvoSt3vo's team is in the bottom right hand corner, running Arctibax, Skarmory, Superior, Clodsire, Medicham, and Lantern. So a couple of moveset things. This Clodsire is running Sludge Bomb and Earthquake. Medicham is running Ice Punch and Dynamic Punch, the new standard moveset ever since Psychic was debuffed. Arctibax sort of running, I guess, the standard moveset with Dragon Claw and Avalanche alongside Dragon Breath. Skarmory running standard moveset with Steel Wing, and Superior running standard moveset with Frenzy Plant and Aerial Ace. And I believe that Lantern is running Spark, although I did forget to check. But let's just assume it's Spark until we find out otherwise. But regardless, sort of a well-balanced team here, and 2 Pokemon that I would like to see a little bit more of, specifically Arctibax and Clodsire. As Debbie Pebble likes to say on the G'day Battlers podcast, Clodsire is friend. So let's sort of, I guess I'm looking forward especially to see those 2 Pokemon potentially get a little bit of a spotlight, get a bit of action. So let's see how it goes. Up against round 1 opponent, HisuianRyan. I should probably also say format of the tournament. I believe it's 4 rounds of Swiss, and then there is a top cut where the top sort of ranked competitors get to go ahead into a single elimination format, which I believe is 2 rounds. There's a semi-finals with the top 4, and then a grand finals with the top 2. So we've got up to 6 rounds that we're going to have today. So let's start off with round 1 against HisuianRyan, someone who I believe is hanging around Pallet Town PvP. I've seen him streaming a little bit here or there. But he's running a team of Chargebug, Lickitung, Trevenant, why am I blanking? Aurorus, Whiscash, and Medicham. So straight away, there's a couple of things. For example, that Chargebug sort of has very good neutral play up against Evo's team. I mean, you're doing pretty well against things like Skarmory, against Superior. You've got play against Lantern. You are going to really struggle against Clodsire. You really just get hard walled by it. Like Clodsire can just go straight Sludge Bomb, and Chargebug, like, it isn't even going to bring Clodsire down past half health, even with the buffed X-Scissor. So that's sort of a pretty strong Pokemon, I think, against Evo's team. I think Whiscash is also a very strong Pokemon. Evo really only has one solid answer, and that is the Superior. Evo does have neutral counterplay against it. For example, like Medicham isn't a bad matchup up against Whiscash, but you are going to be in a bit of strife, especially in the current PvP climate, where there is that 50% chance of a Skull debuff coming through. So it could go a little bit dicey, but I'm expecting Charjabug and Whiscash to be two really strong Pokemon from HisuianRyan's side. And EvoSt3vo almost has to bring the Superior to try and match up against that Whiscash, and potentially you also bring like Medicham as a bit of a neutral answer. You have to be a little bit worried about the Trevenant at that point, so maybe bring in Skarmory, maybe bring in Arctibax even, and then there's always the option to bring in Clodsire to try and fight back against that Charjabug as well. I have a feeling that Lantern is probably going to be staying home against this one though, but that is enough preamble. So welcome in everyone who has skipped to the timestamp, and let's finally get into the battles. It's been like 6 minutes, so I apologize for the long run-up, but we are getting into it now, and we have a great lead with Superior into the Whiscash. So HisuianRyan presumably going to be running straight away, goes into the Trevenant, and now we actually have the Skarmory. This used to be a really hard just RPS win, but now that Skarmory is going to be running Steel Wing, it's a little bit dicey. EvoSt3vo sort of has to burn a shield there on the Shadow Ball, but this Sky Attack will be enough to KO the Trevenant. We have sped up battles by about 1.6, I think, just because it can get a little bit slow when we're just watching the like the Pokemon sitting there waiting. But we now see the Whiscash come back out, and EvoSt3vo going to go straight for that Brave Bird. He's got that Superior sort of waiting in the wings, and now with that Brave Bird landing, that Superior is really just going to be able to farm all the way down, unless that Whiscash happens to be running like Blizzard, but it's unlikely. There's the Scald, going to take out the debuffed Skarmory, and actually a quick swap into Charjabug, and EvoSt3vo swapping into the Arctibax here. Arctibax can definitely take an X-Scissor. Discharge will be resisted. The Volt Switches are also resisted, but it's a little bit rough in like a second X-Scissor is really going to be adding up the damage, so decides to go for a Dragon Claw to try and burn that first shield. There's still another shield that he's got to burn through, so he makes a decision here to shield up the Arctibax so that he can get another Dragon Claw off to really try and force the issue onto HisuianRyan here. And I think the play, like, you can sort of go either way here for Ryan, but he does decide to shield. And at this point, I'm not sure if EvoSt3vo is, like, EvoSt3vo is just going to go down here. Like, this X-Scissor is just too much, which means that Superior comes in. Because he's farmed up energy, he does have the ability to sort of throw that charge move to KO. There was an attempted catch on HisuianRyan's end, but there's no stress for Evo because that Whiscash can do nothing. We now know it for sure doesn't have Blizzard, and yeah, this Frenzy Plant going to take out Charjabug and quite comfortably taking out Game 1. But Game 2, we go in with the Medicham lead into the Lickitung, so another really strong lead for EvoSt3vo. A little bit of counterplay, but we see the quick swap into Charjabug, and a really interesting swap from Evo into the Superior. Superior not in a great spot against this Charjabug because that X-Scissor seriously hurts, and the Aerial Aces don't do too much. Frenzy Plant, I think it is actually more efficient and also just does more raw damage, so it is sort of, I guess, the better move to go for, especially if you're only going to get one of them off. EvoSt3vo shielding up here. Like, I was sort of looking in the back, we've got the Medicham and the Skarmory, so if that Whiscash sort of does turn its head in the back line for HisuianRyan, EvoSt3vo will still have some play, so it isn't the end of the world to lose this Superior, although it's definitely unfortunate. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out, because we know that neutral Lickitung is in there as well, which both Medicham and Skarmory have pretty decent neutral play against as well. So in comes the Lickitung. Lickitung will be getting those neutral licks off to really sort of just start to chip away at Medicham's health, but straight for the Dynamic Punch, and a correct shield call from HisuianRyan, who has really been like holding on to his shields pretty tight here. But regardless, the Body Slam is going to start to come through here. Medicham getting pretty low. These licks are actually seriously adding up, and now going for the Ice Punch bait from EvoSt3vo, and we do not get a shield. A brilliant call from HisuianRyan, not able to get that Ice Punch off either, which means this Skarmory has a lot of work to do. I mean, none of Lickitung's charge moves are going to do much to Skarmory, because they are all resisted, but it is actually a Medicham in the back. Now again, if this was if we weren't running Steel Wing, we would be in a really solid position here, but now that this Medicham is sort of like really ramping up here, the Ice Punch bringing the Skarmory quite low, it is not as guaranteed as it might once have been, and now this Skarmory has a long way to climb to get to another Sky Attack, and Medicham already at the Ice Punch, getting really, really low here, has that last shield to burn, goes for the Brave Bird to just absolutely demolish this Medicham still on the battlefield. Down it goes, but there is still that Lickitung, and unfortunately the Lick's going to be too much there. I've just paused the video. Yeah, really unfortunate. I almost wonder if like the superior swap was potentially the mistake. I guess the lineup was just a little bit weak to that charge bug, because you don't really want Skarmory in there. You don't want your superior there. Medicham, sort of the best you've got. But you really want to be using that Medicham on the Lickitung. So it's also the Medicham. So it was a bit of a rough team composition for EvoSt3vo, even though sort of winning the lead in that game too. But 1-1, we are now going to go into round 3. Let's see if EvoSt3vo can get a third decent lead in a row with a Clodsire finally into the Lickitung. Not the best lead, but not the worst. It's a relatively neutral matchup. These are just two bulky Titans, but the Sludge Bombs are really just going to start to add up. Or you can go for the Earthquakes as well if you really want, but just going to be soaking up that Body Slam like it is nothing. EvoSt3vo going for the Earthquake to try and get that big damage onto the Lickitung pretty early. Doesn't even bring it to half health. Again, Clodsire is not built with attack stats in mind. It is definitely sort of hanging out in the more defense and HP. So it's not doing a whole lot with the Earthquakes, but we're going to be here for a while. So eventually we do see the swap out into the Skarmory. Whoopsies, that closes out one of the notifications, I guess. Takes the Body Slam, and it's actually an Aurora's swap in. EvoSt3vo actually did mention this. HisuianRyan apparently was sort of in the mindset of it being Air Slash, was not in the mindset of that Steel Wing that is just tearing through Aurora's. EvoSt3vo lets this Weather Ball go through, which does bring the Skarmory quite low, but has pretty handily taken that Aurora's out of contention, which means that HisuianRyan is down to only 2 Pokemon, one of them being this Lickitung that is about to get hit by his Sky Attack, getting really low, is able to lick down, but now it is that sort of relatively low health Clodsire and a full superior up against HisuianRyan, and if it is a Whiscash in the back, then EvoSt3vo has just absolutely demolished here. There is nothing that Whiscash is going to be able to do, but it is actually the Medicham. So not exactly like the most dominant of positions, but still lands an Earthquake there. Looks like missed a couple of bubbles as well, but now EvoSt3vo sort of forcing HisuianRyan to throw, to use his energy to take this Clodsire out, because the counters were just not adding up against that poison typing. And now that Medicham is relatively low, EvoSt3vo just needs to keep throwing these Aerial Aces, needs 2 of them to burn the shields, and then needs a third one to KO the Medicham, because those Vine Whips are not going to be quite enough to stop Medicham, who is trying to do the exact same thing. First Ice Punch to burn a shield, second Ice Punch to burn a shield, and he's then going to be going for that third Ice Punch to try and break through and take down the superior. But now EvoSt3vo, racked up with energy, goes for this second Aerial Ace to take out the last shield, and then this third one will KO Medicham by the skin of his teeth, and that is going to be GG's, with EvoSt3vo taking out round 1 of the tournament. So GG's there. HisuianRyan definitely coming back pretty solid in that game number 2, but EvoSt3vo just pulling it all out in the end. That Aurora's play just a little bit unfortunate in the back there. But game number 2, we're up against gAmeMasteRmarK, who is running a very different team with Shadow Galvantula, Mandibuzz, Bastiodon, Lantern, Superior, and Medicham. So I mean, first of all, Bastiodon is a very bold pick. You don't see many trainers succeeding with the Bastiodon. Pretty sure across, I guess 2 coming up on a 3rd World Championship, there've only been 2 battlers that have ever qualified for Worlds with a Bastiodon, one of them being our own Aussie Robert Drogo from Perth, but also Caleb Peng, who has only just recently, again, in the current metagame, come 2nd place with Bastiodon. So Caleb Peng, sort of one of the most dominant forces going, he's brought Bastiodon to 3 Play Pokemon tournaments, 3 regional tournaments, I should say, and he's come second in all 3 of those regionals. So it's a Pokemon that is a little bit difficult to run based on the fact that no one else is having that same success. But if GameMasteRmark happens to be a game master of Bastiodon as well as Caleb Peng is, then potentially it could be a bit of a scary sight, although EvoSt3vo definitely has quite a lot of answers for it. The Galvantula, though, is a very interesting pick that really does put a lot of counterplay against a lot of EvoSt3vo's team. It does depend a little bit on what moveset it's running, whether we see Discharge, Lunge, or Energy Ball. I mean, most of the time it is going to be Discharge, Lunge. But, you know, Energy Ball could be a real sort of game changer just to really dominate against those, against the Lantern matchups. You know, we see that in Electric Cup, not so much in the Open Great League, but you never know. And I mean, Mandibar's hanging out as well, but I don't think that this is a team you're going to want to run Mandibars against, to be honest with you. I mean, if you landed on them, actually everything's pretty much got play against you except the Superior. So if you can land it against the Superior, you're in great stead. And I guess sort of looking more at GameMasteRmark's team, he doesn't really have another great answer against Superior. Like, even though Galvantula, you will have that play, because it's the Shadow Galvantula, an Aerial Ace or a Frenzy Plant from Superior is going to do quite a lot of damage to you. So you aren't exactly what I would call safe in that matchup. But, you know, regardless, we'll see what they do decide to bring it going into game 1 here. And we get the Shadow Galv into the Superior. So we're actually going straight into it. Now, Galvantula, because there's still shields up, does have the advantage of being able to shield this first Aerial Ace and then just lunge down. But actually, EvoSt3vo letting the lunge come through. An absolutely bold play here, really taking a lot of damage, but getting a shield out of GameMasteRmark there, and actually getting up to a Frenzy Plant as well. GameMasteRmark really going for the farm down, but just not able to get it. Bringing Galvantula relatively low, but now you've got Clodsire and the Skarmory. Like, this is a bit of a rough one, because Clodsire, while you're really going to be walling off this Galvantula, you aren't doing that much damage with your quick move Mud Shot, and so like you sort of have to go for a charge move, or else you're just going to keep getting charge moves thrown at you, and you are going to start to get chipped down. But EvoSt3vo taking a second lunge, looks like he is going to go for that full Mud Shot down. He is double debuffed at this point, so whatever comes in, if he decides to throw the charge move, it is not going to be doing as much as he might like, and it is going to be the Superior. So he does throw the Sludge Bomb anyway. He's got that Skarmory in the back, so I feel like it would have been a better play. He actually gets a shield. I think it might have been a better play to swap into the Skarmory, because you're sort of going to be able to be in this matchup later on anyway. But we see the swap out into the Skarmory, and there's the swap out into Bastiodon. So this is where having Steel Wing is making it a little bit better. But when you've got a Sky Attack and Brave Bird, this is actually a really scary matchup for Skarmory. So we see that the Skarmory just going straight for the Brave Birds, dropping its defense. Actually going for Sky Attack now. I'm going to try and go for 2. But because Clodsire, EvoSt3vo hanging out with 2 shields still, he can sort of comfortably shield this up, sort of take down the Bastiodon with Clodsire. This is sort of where it would be really nice to still have that energy from before. But he shields up the Stone Edge. Going to try and go for an Earthquake. But now he's in a dangerous position, because that Superior is hanging in the back. He really needs to keep one of his shields for that Superior. But he can't farm up that much energy. Okay, we actually see the swap out into Superior. Here's the shield. Going to get a Sludge Bomb off here, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. And the Leaf Tornado as well. Didn't get to see if that debuffed or not, unfortunately, but... Oh, that is enough to take it out, but now needs to get to the Earthquake. Does get to the Earthquake. This will take out the Bastiodon, so EvoSt3vo actually pulling it out. That's... I'm going to be honest, guys. I thought that was game lost. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do it, but, you know, just had enough juice in that Clodsire tank to be able to get through. And really, that game really does sort of demonstrate how good Clodsire can be, being that bulky little thing to just soak up all of that energy and still take it out, even though with the debuffed Sludge Bombs. But regardless, we're going game 2, and we are back in the Superior versus Galvantula matchup. EvoSt3vo going for something a little bit different, going straight for the Frenzy Plant here instead of the Aerial Ace. Still going to take the lunge to the face though, and we'll see if GameMasteRmark plays it the exact same way in letting this go. He does. Actually, it's slightly different because he shielded up the aerial ace. But regardless, going down, winning switch advantage without having to burn any shields. And now we've come straight back into here where Clodsire is just, going to be able to no shield and mud shot down. And you can see EvoSt3vo is running that Skarmory again. So we will have to wait and see if gAmeMasteRmark is still running that Bastiodon in the back, or if we do see something a little bit different. The Bastiodon superior, I should say. Again, Evo with a ton of energy, but it's actually the Mandibuzz coming in. And again, like throwing the Sludge Bomb debuffed is a little bit unfortunate because that did like absolutely nothing. Like that's really unfortunate, and it's actually a Lantern in the back. So gAmeMasteRmark actually making the huge brain calls, recognizing that EvoSt3vo was likely to run this similar strategy, and this Skarmory just has nowhere to go. And now it's going to be a case where Clodsire is going to have to take on the full health Lantern and the Mandibuzz, and it's only got half of its health remaining. So like the Surfs already do so much damage, you're really going to have to shield up these super effective Surfs, but you don't even have Stone Edge to be able to hit that Mandibuzz with big super effective damage. So like, and an Earthquake doesn't take out Lantern. This is so rough. You're going to have to like burn a shield to be able to mud shot down, and then you'll be able to start throwing Sludge Bombs into that Mandibuzz. But Mandibuzz being a bulky Pokemon in its own, it's not going to take that much damage from these Sludge Bombs, even now that they're not debuffed like they were before. But he also still has a shield, so it's like, oh no, this is sort of disaster for EvoSt3vo, and we're going to be looking at a 1-to-1 game here. EvoSt3vo has to make the decision: does he want to change up his strategy? Because while it works, it's a really nice team to have against that first lineup that gAmeMasteRmark brought, Lantern is a bit of another story, and almost forces EvoSt3vo to need to bring the superior in. Metacham would also potentially work for a bit of neutral coverage, but actually bringing in the Lantern for the hopeful mirror. But we get that we still get Galvantula in the lead for the third time in a row. And so now this Lantern is going to be the one that takes the move to the face. It is still a lunge. We take it a little bit better than Superior did, so still able to get this Surf off, even though it is debuffed. Gets a shield out of Galvantula this time. Galvantula is going to outpace to a move here before Lantern can get a Surf, so has to make the call here. Does he want the Lantern? And he does want to protect it. We can see it is the Superior and the Clodsire in the back. So like, if you get this Galvantula weak enough, we can go back to that same strategy of Clodsire going for the farm down, which looks like we are about to do. And it's going to be a question of what does gAmeMasteRmark have in the back, because if it's the Mandibuzz Lantern again, we're in a little bit of a better spot this time because we do have that Superior in the back ready for Lantern. But now it's a case of like, well, EvoSt3vo can't, oh no, I was going to say he can't swap out to the Superior because he's got Mandibuzz in front of him, but he does swap out because that Clodsire is debuffed, and I guess EvoSt3vo making the call here that he wants to have a non-debuffed Clodsire to throw Sludge Bombs at the Mandibuzz anyway, and then potentially throw an Earthquake at what could be a Lantern in the back, what could be a Bastiodon in the back. But he sort of made the play here that, look, we need to ditch Lantern. It's our best strategy. Brings in the Clodsire and is going to start throwing these Sludge Bombs, but this is a really rough position to be in. Gets that shield. We are pretty bulky, so there's no need to shield up against Mandibuzz here. You can take the Aerial Ace on the chin. The fact there's no swap out still is sort of interesting to me. I think Mandibuzz really does have the potential to just like potentially win this matchup. So there might be no need to swap out here. But, we're down into the red on the Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz going to get another charge move off here. EvoSt3vo finally burning that shield on the Aerial Ace. And there is the Lantern in the back. So we saw this before. One Earthquake isn't enough to KO the Lantern. But Lantern is going to outpace here anyway. So this Surf going to take Clodsire out. And so EvoSt3vo going down to gAmeMasteRmark. So some really close battles. I think it is very much a case though where gAmeMasteRmark, they did lose the one time they brought Bastiodon, but regardless, they sort of played it well. They did a good job in adjusting their team lineups against EvoSt3vo, what he was sort of bringing, what Mark identified that Evo identified was sort of good or working for him, and really sort of just played off of that. And Evo didn't really have anywhere to go. That Clodsire just wasn't doing the magic. So potentially could have changed up his team a little bit more. I think he also might have commented to me that I mean, ideal world, he would have identified that the Galvantula was coming in every game a little bit earlier. But that's one of those things where it's like, you know, you're only noticing the pattern afterwards. It's hard to just predict like, oh, he's brought it 2 games. He's going to bring it to game number 3 in the lead as well. It's just one of those things. But regardless, now 1-1 in the tournament, but it doesn't knock him out by any means because, again, there is going to be a top cut that goes through from the Swiss rounds. So as long as he wins the next 2 rounds, he's going to be in quite a good position here. So let's change the teams on the board and bring in GreedeeE. His team here is a Chargebug, a Lickitung, a Shadow Quagsire, Jumpluff, Carbink, and Medicham by the looks of things. So again, Chargebug, same as it was before. Sorry, I dropped my mouse. Chargebug is going to be quite a neutral force up against EvoSt3vo's team. Lickitung, again, going to be a relatively neutral force as well. We saw that in one of the earlier battles. Jumpluff is a really interesting one. Like, you've got good play against a chunk of Evo's team, but it's, again, one where you're actually going to get even more walled against Skarmory than some other Pokemon are, so that could be a little bit rough. Carbink is an interesting one. You're going to have good play against, like, the Arctobacks, I guess. And you've got play against Medicham, but it's a little bit dicey to bring, especially when there's a Clodsire and a Lantern and a Steelwing Skarmory in tow, so it's maybe a leave it homer. And the Medicham, you know, Medicham is still Medicham. It does what it does, even though it isn't generally running Psychic these days. I should say, again, I don't know what movies he's running. Maybe GreedeeE is still on the Psychic Medicham train. Who knows? But let's get into the battles and take a look at what we've got. And we see the Clodsire going into the Carbink. So Carbink does come in and does not meet a good lead at all. And it's just instant great position here for EvoSt3vo. The swap into the Shadow Quagsire, the swap into the Superior. Superior can comfortably take a move from this Quagsire. It's actually just the Mud Bomb. And Quagsire throwing these off pretty quick, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is just another Mud Bomb. Just going to throw as many Mud Bombs as possible, but Superior comfortably going to just farm this one down. And if the Carbink comes back in, then he's still able to just throw Frenzy Plants at it. Actually, regardless of what Pokemon GreedeeE brings in, this Superior is going to have a ton of energy to throw at it and threaten it with. So Jumpluff comes in and we're going to be able to threaten it with Aerial Ace. If it was Medicham, same thing. If it was Carbink, Frenzy Plant. If it was Lickitung, Frenzy Plant. And if it was Chargebug, I mean, Frenzy Plants still do a decent chunk, but getting 2 Aerial Aces off, really, like, Jumpluff is quite a tanky Pokemon, so is it even going to tank this next Aerial Ace? And then almost in this point where Jumpluff, actually threw the move. So that looks like it was charge attack priority. So the Aerial Ace will take out the Superior there. And now brings in the Skarmory to just wall this thing. Jumpluff can just do nothing in this matchup. So eventually swaps out into Carbink. And as much as Skarmory is already a great matchup up against Carbink with Steelwing, Clodsire is even better, and we may as well keep that Skarmory for the Jumpluff. So this is just hard GGs. They're like, it's insane to me how much that Earthquake, like how much Carbink can take that Earthquake again, because they are 2 really bulky Pokemon. But, you know, like, it is what it is. There is nothing that GreedeeE can do here. They have hard lost, and it is just a matter of time. So it takes out game number 1. Going into game number 2, I really think that GreedeeE needs to leave the Carbink at home. I do not think it is an effective Pokemon up against EvoSt3vo's team. So the Superior is definitely a really dangerous pick for Greedee's team. So I actually think that GreedeeE almost needs to bring in the Chargebug to try and counter it. But with one game up his sleeve, goes in with the Clodsire again, and we get the Lickitung in the lead this time. So, again, this is just bulk versus bulk. They're just going to throw a bunch of stuff at each other. We can see that EvoSt3vo is still running that Superior Skarmory in the back, and an interesting swap into Skarmory, into the Lickitung, maybe trying to catch a move, but definitely baiting out the Chargebug that GreedeeE has correctly identified is going to be good here. Actually, I've just remembered that I believe this matchup, they had a lag rematchup, a lag redo twice. So this is the sort of 3rd time they've played out these team matchups. So I think they're both quite aware of what the other person has. I'm not aware, so they've both got more information than I do here. But we'll see how it does play out. Letting the Skarmory go down, EvoSt3vo is able to bring the Clodsire back in, so sort of correctly baiting out the Chargebug. And we actually now see a swap into Lickitung, which is a bit of a scary position because this could be a Power Whip. It is just a body slam. Actually, body slam, I think body slam is the more efficient move regardless because of that poison typing. But shielding up another body slam on the Clodsire and going to be throwing an earthquake at the Lickitung. At this point, like, you sort of want to keep your Clodsire for the charge bug in the back. So I would expect that we swap out into Superior at some point. Maybe you charge up to the charge move and then you dip out. But regardless, getting really low here. And actually, no, just going to go full at it. Going to throw the earthquake at this Lickitung, just trying to absolutely take it out, come into the Superior and get one Vine Whip of energy farm. And now it's like, what Capit's here? Okay, it's Medicham in the back. So Superior definitely has some work cut out for it because, like, these Aerial Aces do add up, but the Ice Punches from the Medicham are just as, if not more scary to the Superior. So Ice Punch comes through, brings it down to about half health, and now the swap back into the Charger Bug. EvoSt3vo only has this one shield, and he really needs to use it here because an X-Scissor would take it out, an Ice Punch would take it out. So Evo is up against two Pokemon that are both really scary here, and there is still a shield up on GreedeeE's side to shield it up with. So now this X-Scissor will be enough to take out Superior. The Clodsire is pretty low, so I don't think that, I think an X-Scissor is going to come out here and it will be enough to KO the Clodsire. There it is, and GreedeeE tying up the battle with a 1-1 score. And so now EvoSt3vo going into the third battle. And yeah, so I forgot that was the lag rematch. Round 3 battle 2, but now we're going to round 3 battle 3, and we have another good lead in Medicham into Lickitung, just as we did earlier. But up against HisuianRyan, he did lose that lead matchup, so we'll see how it does go here with a double swap from into the Skarmory versus Medicham matchup. Again, one of those matchups that, like, Steel Wing is the standard move on Skarmory now, but it is a little bit worse up against the Medicham, for example. So going for the Sky Attack here. If Medicham lets it go, it'll be huge for EvoSt3vo, but otherwise, just going to have to keep chugging along and sort of pressured to shield here. Really nice counting from GreedeeE, like identification of how much he can farm and when he does need to throw. But now that looks like it might have been charge attack priority and going to get this Sky Attack off here. Not taking out the Medicham though, and the counter actually goes through, and that is enough to take the Skarmory out. So in comes the Medicham. EvoSt3vo does have the shield advantage, so he's going to win this Medicham matchup regardless, and unlikely to be running Psychic, so you can quite comfortably take a move these days. It is just going to be an Ice Punch, and there is the Quagsire in the back, so I can just throw this big dynamic punch into the Shadow Quagsire. Clodsire not going to need to do very much here, but he's going to potentially have to do a little bit. There is still a shield up on EvoSt3vo's side, so I think he can shield, go to the Ice Punch, and the Ice Punch will be enough to KO the Quagsire, but Quagsire gets the Mud Bomb off. This, I don't think it is enough to take out. Oh, it's an Aqua Tail. It's an Aqua Tail. And that is definitely not enough to take out the Medicham. So Medicham able to get the Ice Punch off here, take out the Quagsire, going for that quick swap into Clodsire, just trying to get out of here and not give GreedeeE the farm. But it is the Lickitung in the back. There are no debuffs here. We are back to the lead matchup. Earthquake is just going to fly into this Lickitung, while Lickitung is going to be throwing body slams straight back. That Earthquake does do a lot of damage, and the Mud Shots are sort of helping to whittle Lickitung down to that half health mark. Body Slam not doing as much. It does look like Clodsire. Oh my gosh, the attempted catch from GreedeeE, identifying that that was the necessary win con, but unfortunately for GreedeeE, EvoSt3vo keeping his calm, keeping his cool, not getting his move caught, and now will comfortably be able to get to this next. I mean, he could just throw a Sludge Bomb at this point, and that will be enough. Goes to the Earthquake though, and this is going to be enough to KO the Lickitung and enough to take out round 3 up against GreedeeE. So GG's there. Yeah, really unfortunate. I mean, I don't really know how the sort of rematches go. Obviously, rematches always suck because no matter how you cut it, you're sort of going into an unfair playfield going forward. Actually, I've only just remembered that Play Pokemon rematch rules don't use the same teams, I think. So maybe they were fresh teams. I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, EvoSt3vo still comes out victorious there up against that team. So going into round number 4, we've got some teams with some question marks, but we have a Gligar, a Shadow Swampert, a Salazzle, a Medicham, and then we have Reggie and Lantern with question marks. EvoSt3vo Admittedly, didn't write down the teams of his opponents, so I was going off memory a little bit, and I sort of scanned through the battles to sort of see what Pokemon people had. So slight spoiler, Natorius is only going to be running 4 Pokemon in his battles against EvoSt3vo, but one of those battles is a Salazzle, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty keen to see that in work. Are we going to see it in work? I mean, actually, yeah, it's got some decent play up against EvoSt3vo's team, so it definitely feels like, I'm assuming it's going to be running Incinerate up against Skarmory, up against Superior, up against Arctibax even. It's sort of neutral because Dragon type does resist fire, but I want to see it, is the truth of the matter. But we also have that Shadow Swampert, which we don't know the moveset. Gligar going to be pretty decent up against EvoSt3vo's team. Good play against the Superior. Even play against the Medicham, who has the Ice Punch. Play against Lantern because you've got that Dig. Clodsire isn't running, it's running Earthquake Sludge Bomb, so you're actually in a pretty decent spot up against Clodsire as well. And Arctibax is not great for you, but it's not the bulkiest Pokemon, so you've got some play there. And then Medicham is, again, still just Medicham. So let's jump into the battles as soon as I find the play button. There it is. So we can jump into round number 4. Again, EvoSt3vo sort of needs to win this round to be able to progress to the next part of the tournament. And we have a Clodsire into the Gligar, so we quick swap into the Arctibax, and we go straight into the counter damage from this Medicham. A little bit of lag there. EvoSt3vo did say that he just let it go because he didn't want to keep extending the tournament out after the previous rematches in the last round, but definitely unfortunate, although that Medicham would still be pretty healthy here regardless. But now has to make a choice here. Clodsire or Medicham. Brings in the Medicham. Again, we did see the Gligar from before. So one possible outcome for this is EvoSt3vo. Oh, they're running Psychic and the defense debuff as well. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a little bit dicier for EvoSt3vo than it was going to be. It was going to be an easy slam dunk. You know, we get out of this matchup. We fight through the Medicham. We have energy. If they bring in Gligar, we have Ice Punches ready to throw. But now that the Psychic has been revealed and also gotten the defense debuff, this is not as clear cut as it should be, and EvoSt3vo no longer has that opportunity to come out of this matchup with a ton of energy. Gligar does come back in and he can't get the Ice Punch off. That is just devastating for EvoSt3vo, and now it's just going to be looking down the barrel of constant charge moves coming from this Gligar. Actually throwing the Aerial Ace first up at the Clodsire. I'm actually not sure, is that like the most efficient move? Like if we have Gligar versus Clodsire, we have some time here. This matchup's going to go for a while. Dig is the more efficient move. Oh, but he still had a shield. Okay, so he's going for the bait, but does get it on that one. But then the opponent just swaps out into the Shadow Swampert. So, it's going to be GG's. It does do a ton of damage with that Earthquake, but not going to get to another charge move before the Hydro Cannon can come through. So, Earthquake even. Okay, that just blow him out of the water. So, Natorius taking out game number 1. EvoSt3vo needing to fight back with a Salazzle in the lead, and it is that Incinerate Salazzle. Medicham doesn't really have much play against this Salazzle, so EvoSt3vo may be thinking about his options. Takes a Poison Fang to the face, and this Medicham is getting really low. Gonna go for the Dynamic Punch on the Salazzle now. Brings it down really low as well. Salazzle not very bulky, even though it has the poison typing. The counters are seriously adding up here. So now shields up the Poison Fang and can comfortably counter it down. But yikes, that is rough. But able to get the bonus last little bit of health Ice Punch onto the opposing Medicham. Is a shield down, but you can sort of comfortably bring in the Skarmory here. Again, Steel Wing, yada yada yada, but still gonna have these Sky attacks that can do some super effective damage. And I guess goes for the Psychic, not gonna get a debuff this time, although yeah, actually, it was more impact. I was going to say, would it be more impactful here than the last game? But the last game was pretty impactful. So let's keep going with the Skarmory. There's the swap out into Swampert, and there's a Superior just waiting in the back. So this is going to be a full farm down. EvoSt3vo doing a great job at finding these Shadow Mud Boys with the Superior, and Medicham comes in. We've got all this energy off of that Swampert, so can now start throwing these Aerial Aces. Force Shields. There's no more shields shields left. So EvoSt3vo burns the shield here, gets the aerial ace off, and that is going to be GG's on game number 2. It'll put us at 1-1, and now EvoSt3vo needs to go into game 3 and take this out again to be able to progress into Top Cut and progress into the single elimination bracket. So here comes the Medicham into the Gligar, so not the greatest lead again, but we'll see how it goes. At least there is opportunity for that counter play with the Ice Punches here. So let's see what Evo does. Decides to burn the shield on the first aerial ace. Going for the Ice Punch now. Evo's got that Skarmory Superior in the back again, so really leaning on these Pokemon quite a bit through these tournament. But there's a nice catch into the Skarmory. Okay, so this won't do very much to Skarmory at all, and really pushes Natorius to swap out, actually coming into that Salazzle. So the Incinerate's doing a lot of damage. EvoSt3vo going straight for the Sky Attack. A slight mistime on the moves, I think, but I potentially could have gone for the Brave Bird, but it doesn't really matter in the end there. So now it has to make the decision. We know that there is that Gligar in the back, so brings in the Medicham. Going to be pretty scary here, but we've seen Medicham win this matchup out before with pretty low health. Burns the shield on the second Poison Fang. Potentially we see Medicham get... Oh no, I was going to say maybe we go up to Energy and keep it, but actually going to go straight for the Dynamic Punch. Wouldn't be too surprised if we see a quick swap out into Superior here, because we do not want to get wing attacked down by this Gligar. There's no shields in play anymore, so this is a little bit irky. Aerial Ace going to be able to tank it, going to get to the Frenzy Plant, but a catch onto the Swampert in the back, hitting a tiny amount of bubbles here, and is now actually going to get a nice bit of farm on this Swampert. I feel like, it would have been close to try and go for any more, but still gets a Frenzy Plant off onto the Gligar. This is going to do quite a bit of damage, actually. It's not going to be enough to KO. Oh, no, it is! It is! EvoSt3vo taking out game number 3 and taking out Natorius, cementing himself a spot in the finals here. So I think it is top 4, and so this is semi-finals up against HoppyLegacy. But yeah, it's really nicely done here. So HoppyLegacy running Azumarill, Venusaur, Talonflame, Registeel, Whiscash, and we don't see the 6th Pokemon, but Evo thinks that it was a Skarmory. But again, this is sort of like looking at HoppyLegacy's team. This looks like something that was sort of being theory crafted at the start of the season. So back sort of December 1st, when the meta changes sort of first came into play. This looks very similar to what it was. So you've got that Whiscash, the really powerful Whiscash with the Skull debuff chances. You've got Venusaur specifically to cover Whiscashes. You've got Azumarill as a really strong, just sort of bolstering pick as well, with the Talonflame there as sort of that pick that Incinerate got buffed. You don't see that many Talonflames running around. But here it is on HoppyLegacy's team, and I'm pretty excited to sort of see how it runs. We did see a different Incinerate user on the last team, but I have a feeling that Talonflame, probably a slightly stronger pick, definitely can run away a little bit more against you than that Salazzle can, because that Flame Charge plus Incinerate can be pretty deadly. So regardless, EvoSt3vo now going into the semi-finals up against HoppyLegacy. Let's take a look. We've got the Medicham into the Registeel, so a really nice lead for EvoSt3vo. You see a quick swap out into the Azumarill, and EvoSt3vo going with that hard RPS into the Lantern. There is not a whole lot of this as you can do, but you know, you've got to be a little bit careful of where your health ends up when you leave the matchup. Depending on what HoppyLegacy does have in the back. So it goes for the Thunderbolt. At this point, I don't think you can quite go for the full Spark down. Or actually, I think you can. We will get another Play Rough off. Lantern will get to the red, but it will still survive and Spark all the way down. So now Registeel comes back in. You can just get these Surfs off. It makes you wonder if it sort of feels unlikely that there's a Venusaur in the back now, which... I guess if you're the superior, you're sort of like, okay, the only thing we're really worried about now is the Talonflame. Gets a big chunk of damage off onto the Registeel and doesn't quite get to a Surf. HoppyLegacy, really nice identification of the new charge move about to come out. So throws the Zap Cannon to prevent the Surf. And at this point, brings the Medicham back in. It is the Talonflame in the back, and HoppyLegacy, a little bit rough timing, let an Incinerate through on EvoSt3vo's end, but now has to fight through 2-shield Talonflame. This is what Talonflame was built for. It is just straight Incinerate. Oh no, going for the fly bait even. Okay, so this is a dangerous spot here, catching a move onto the superior, but like, I don't know how you get through this. Taking a fly to the face, the Incinerate's really hurting. Really interesting, we're not seeing flame charges. We are seeing straight fly action, still super effective damage, still super threatening, but now getting that first shield out of the Talonflame, needs to get a second one and still manage to KO this Talonflame, and Talonflame is just so boosted at this point. Gets the flame charge in there, lets another incinerate through. EvoSt3vo, some really unfortunate move timing here, but now this Talonflame is going to take Medicham out, and that's going to be GG's, which means EvoSt3vo needs to win both of the next 2 games to stay in it, to win it. I don't think he's going to take Talonflame as easily as the last game. So we see the quick swap out from the bad matchup into another pretty bad matchup with Skarmory into the Venusaur. Not a whole lot that Venusaur can do up against a Skarmory. This could be news to you, but yeah, it can't do much. Skarmory pretty much seen nothing but blue sky here in Albuquerque. But I mean, it looks pretty cloudy in the game, but regardless, I mean, Breaking Bad references and all that. But we get the Sky Attack off, gets the shield from the Venusaur, and goes for another. Venusaur's actually doing pretty handy here, to be honest with you. So Frenzy Plant going to take the Skarmory down into the red, and at this point, HoppyLegacy has the option to shield here and try and push through, and that looks like it is what he's doing. Okay, I was like, are we going to see a Venusaur take out a Skarmory? But no. We see the Lantern come back in now. Sort of because we've seen the Azumarill, he can sort of keep the Superior for the Azumarill and just use the Lantern against the Talonflame. That's sort of just better use of resources. So Talonflame comfortably going down to the Lantern. Here comes the Venusaur, and it doesn't matter at this point if Lantern goes down. Although, like, it's, you know, this is fine as well. Should have comfortably shield up, spark down, and now go for that Thunderbolt. Onto that Azumarill, and that is going to be GG's on this one. There's just nothing they can do here. I mean, hasn't even revealed the Superior, right? Or did he? No, he hasn't. So, yeah, Superior just not even seen. Gonna be able to take this Play Rough, I assume. And then, yeah, just gets another Thunderbolt. That's GG's. And going now 1-1 against HoppyLegacy. Getting the Lantern onto Talonflame, much better time than in the previous game with Talonflame just running away with it. But we go into game 3 and we get the Medicham into the Whiscash. So EvoSt3vo has actually left the Superior at home this time, which is a dangerous ploy against a double water team, but doesn't want to be too weak to that Talonflame, I suppose. Still a little bit weak, but Skull debuff comes through. Throws the Dynamic Punch, that Whiscash really putting some threat onto this Medicham. It's actually a bit of a rough position for EvoSt3vo because you're sort of forced to shield. Oh, no, actually no shield. Another Scald. Gets the Ice Punch off, though. This won't be enough to KO, especially after the Scald debuff coming through, but actually gets a shield off of HoppyLegacy. I'm not sure about that shield, but regardless, the Skarmory comes in, going to try and Steel Wing all the way down, but in comes the Talonflame swap, and now that it's switch locked in here, EvoSt3vo going to come in to just face the Talonflame head on. And there is not much that this Talonflame is going to be able to do. Like, it's pretty dangerous when you're the Talonflame user to switch lock your Talonflame in. It tends to work a little bit better when you do sort of have it in the lead. You can sort of throw something and dip, or you can just keep farming, like you can just keep running away with it as long as your opponent lets. But then as soon as it gets a bit tricky, you can sort of dip out of there and come back a little bit later. But when you're a Talonflame up against that Lantern, there is not much you can do here. So EvoSt3vo able to spark all the way down, and here's the Azumarill in the back. This Lantern is actually really low here, so it has to go for the Surf. Gets a shield though. HoppyLegacy not keeping track of the energy by the seams of it. And even though he doesn't have Superior, he does have the Skarmory with a shield, and I think that is going to be enough to take out game number 3 here against HoppyLegacy. Will take the Ice Beam to the face, can even take another Ice Beam. I wonder if he's sort of sitting there thinking about the Brave Bird, but goes for the much safer Sky Attack here, and one more Sky Attack plus these Steel Wings is all he's going to need to secure the match. He is actually at the Brave Bird, but I think I saw him tap on the Sky Attack. Yeah, okay, he's not actually at the Brave Bird. He's one away, but regardless, takes out Azumarill, takes out the game, and that is GG. And EvoSt3vo going ahead into the finals of this local tournament, back up against gAmeMasteRmarK. Mark has been tearing away the tournament on the back end, and so now it is time for the rematch. It was a 2-1 result, I believe, back last time, so Oh yeah, with gAmeMasteRmarK losing that first game with the Bastiodon. So EvoSt3vo has to work out some different strategies, try and fight his way back through against gAmeMasteRmarK. So let's see what he can do in these finals of the local tournament. Both of these trainers walking away with championship points, but there is some extra for whoever takes the crown. And in game number 1, we see the Clodsire into the Medicham. We've got the Skarmory and the Lantern in the back. So we see a quick swap into the Lantern, maybe trying to catch the Ice Punch there, but we now see the Superior coming in. And this is just like in that last game where the Talonflame was getting switch locked up against the Lantern. It is Lantern's turn to get switch locked against the Superior. Superior coming out here with the you can't keep getting away with this and taking on the Leaf Tornado. No debuff, unfortunately. This actually let Lantern actually put on some pretty heavy damage onto this Superior because it doesn't have that Frenzy Plant by the seams of it. But full farm down, regardless. Gonna have a ton of energy to throw into. Assuming you can go either way here. Like, you've got to be a little bit scared of that lead matchup returning, but looks like going to go for the Skarmory and just going to try and Steel Wing all the way down. Still no debuff, which is great for EvoSt3vo, but there's one more opportunity for it. And do we see the debuff? No debuff. That's 3 Leaf Tornadoes, 0 debuff. So EvoSt3vo cheering. And here is the Bastiodon. There's the swap into Medicham catching the Earthquake. And at this point, EvoSt3vo in a little bit of a rough spot because, like, you really want this Clodsire to be up against that Bastiodon because otherwise it's your Skarmory. So this is sort of just the wrong way around. EvoSt3vo, it was really important for him to win switch advantage with these teams, and so now has to figure out how he can get through this. Going for the Earthquake onto the Medicham. Gonna bring it down relatively low, but not low enough. This Medicham is still poised to be able to win out this matchup. EvoSt3vo actually going to let the Clodsire go. Well, not let it go, but comes in. It looks like he tapped on the Sludge Bomb beforehand. Gets the last shield out, and now the swap out into Bastiodon. This would be a really strong spot for Skarmory if it had the charge move Flash Cannon, but running double Flyer, not in a great spot at all. Going for the Sky, like, look how little that did. Like, this is an XL Basti. There is not much that this Skarmory is able to do here. Goes for another Sky Attack, and it's just like Bastiodon sitting there like, not much to do here. So Stone Edge takes it out, and now there is that Clodsire in the back. But, like, EvoSt3vo was so far away from the charge move. Needs to burn a shield on a Bastiodon, Stone Edge, and now goes for the Earthquake, and that will take out the Bastiodon. There's still going to be a Medicham in the back to take the Clodsire out. So that is going to be GG game 1. So EvoSt3vo again needs to push through 2 games in a row, but we are back into Clodsire versus Medicham, and those Ice Punches are really going to hurt. So needs to think about what he does here, and does actually catch the move this time onto this Skarmory. Nice catch of even a Psychic. Oh my gosh, that is a massive catch for EvoSt3vo. We do see the Bastiodon come back in here, and I sort of wonder if... Oh, it goes for the Sky Attack. I feel like you might want to let the Skarmory go down as soon as possible so that you can sort of try and let Clodsire do all of the work, because you're only going to need 1 Earthquake. And sort of the longer you leave this Skarmory up against this Bastiodon, the closer the switch timer gets to being up, but... you know, we'll see how it does end up going out here. I feel like you have to bring Clodsire in. Although you have to be pretty scared of the Superior in the back. Now that I think about it, like, not that we've seen a Superior, but if there's a Superior, Lantern would be absolutely up a creek. And it may be a fish, but that wouldn't put it in a good stead regardless. So, gonna have to bring in the Lantern, I guess. Take a Stone Edge to the face, getting pretty low here. Goes for the Surf. Potentially could have farmed up a little bit more energy, but still going to have more opportunity for that, I guess. It is the Superior, so nice choice on bringing the Lantern in. Now going to go for the Sludge Bomb onto the Superior. Brings it down to about half health. The fact that there are still 2 shields on both sides tends to not bode well for Clodsire. Clodsire works really well in sort of shield down positions. When you're in positions with shields up, you are in a scary spot for sure. Lets the Superior go though entirely, leaving it all onto Medicham, which is an interesting play. I guess you get to the Ice Punch is pretty quick, but still, I mean, lets it go as well. At this point, I don't know if Medicham has much motivation to use its charge moves, because you can just sort of like just keep countering. Looks like Evo tried to go for the catch there, but unfortunately it did go through. So going to shield up the Ice Punch. I still feel like Or maybe you get to 3 Ice Punches, but goes for another Sludge Bomb. Again, just going to burn that shield off of the Medicham. There are now no more shields, but Clodside does not have much health at all, and shields up here. I don't even know if it's going to get to another Sludge Bomb. Oh, okay, barely does. I don't think this is enough to KO the Medicham. Clodside is going to go down here. Lanto needs to get to a Surf to take this Medicham out, but he's one spark away, and Medicham gets to the Ice Punch that will carry the Lanto, and Clodside comes back in, and a couple of counters and goes down, and that is GG's. gAmeMasteRmarK taking out the local tournament, but EvoSt3vo still coming away with that second place spot, and a bit of championship point action heading towards the World Championship. So really appreciate everyone for sticking around for this video. Thank you to EvoSt3vo for not only putting on a show, but also for sharing this footage with us, and of course being like such a long time supporter of the channel. Really do appreciate EvoSt3vo and everything he does, even just hanging out in chat. Always good to have him around. Counting Azus, which I counted 1 from this tournament, although I wasn't paying. There was only 1, right? I think, because gAmeMaster wasn't running it, HisuianRyan wasn't running it, GreedeeE wasn't running it, but Notorious. Oh no, Notorious wasn't running it. HoppyLegacy was running it in the sort of a classic team. But regardless, some really top battles. So really appreciate again everyone for coming out and taking a look through it with us. Not sure, content for the future. Who knows? Maybe we do some more of these. Maybe we don't. Let me know if you're interested in seeing more of these. I guess lesser seen play Pokemon sort of tournament action. It's not like a regional that tends to get streamed, except for the Oceanic region. But it's something. It sort of gives you another sort of look, some other perspectives as to what is working in this meta. And I mean, we look at the sort of winning team here. Whoopsies, I've clicked the wrong button. There we go. Shadow Galvantula and Bastiodon actually coming out on top. So really just giving you some other things to think about. Actually, EvoSt3vo also wrote a bit of a closer as well. So just some final thoughts from Evo, and we'll close out the video. At the end, it was almost 6 p.m. Had a 2-hour drive to get through during New Year's Eve, but felt great and no ill thoughts about anything. Before leaving, he ate and chatted with a friend of his and Ryan, HisuianRyan from Set 1, at a Mexican restaurant down the block. We had some good laughs, talked about the future of PvP here in NM. New Mexico. I actually had to think about, hang on, what's the Breaking Bad place again? Oh yeah, New Mexico. As we departed, I felt a renewed sense of passion for PvP I haven't felt in ages. I look forward to more future in-person tournaments. At the end, it was a good experience participating in a Play Pokemon tournament with locals. I hope people who watch my battles can learn a thing or two and try going to their own someday. I want to give thanks to the officials that officiated the tournament, the card shop owner for letting us use their venue, and to all the tournament goers that day. And thank you, me, for reviewing your matches. No worries, EvoSt3vo. But I just resounding, it is really something that you don't realize how good it is until you're in it. So if you haven't had a chance to sort of be at an in-person tournament, if you've never traveled to a regional or an international championship or a worlds or whatever, starting off with a local tournament could be it is a lot of fun. So I do recommend it. Check out the Pokemon.com event locator to see if there's anything going on in your area. Again, unfortunately, Oceanic viewers, we will have to wait a little bit longer. We'll wait and see when they do roll out. Hopefully soon. Fingers crossed. But regardless, thanks again to EvoSt3vo, and of course, thank you to Maya. Oh man, I've lost all the graphics. Oh man, it's below everything. Hang on, it's gonna be above me in a second. But bye. But yeah, oh man, we missed one. Whoop. Thank you to my patrons and YouTube members as well, EvoSt3vo included. But I'll see you in the next one, whatever it may be. But I hope you have a good rest of your week.